Joining me now, three of the best political analysts in the country, all CNN contributors, Democratic strategist Hank Sheinkopf, New York Daily News columnist Errol Louis. Errol, also host of the New York morning show WWRL, and in our Washington studio, syndicated columnist Diana West. Good to have you all here. Hank, let's start with this, all of the sudden focus on the part of the McCain campaign on Bill Ayers, a terrorist. I like the fact some people are calling him a militant. He's actually gone out bombing things. That's more than a little militant. I don't know what's going on there, but what's your reaction to this late attention on Bill Ayers?
Well, it's an attempt to get the base. If they don't have the base sewed up, I know they're crazy and they're in trouble anyway. And by the way, that is not what people are worried about. They are worried about, as we have noted on this program for more than the last year, the economy. That's where they ought to be, and not talking about William Ayers. No one cares.
No one cares. Do you believe that?
Well, I think the base of the party cares quite passionately, in part because a lot of right-wing talk show hosts, there's been a lot of discussion out there. It's been very frothy. They've been talking about it for a year. And to see it finally break into the mainstream, it's releasing a pressure valve for some people who thought that this should have been an issue dealt with months ago, which is arguably true before the economic crisis.
But which is a pattern here. The national media has created a buffer, if you will, a Teflon buffer, between Barack Obama and all of these charges, whether it's Jeremiah Wright, whether it's Bill Ayers. I mean, you go through the list. I mean, it's true.
Well, let's give McCain some hand of responsibility here. He told his surrogates...
we can give him a lot of responsibility.
Well, he told his surrogates, hands off the Jeremiah Wright issue. He didn't want this campaign to be about that. And so, rightly or wrongly, it's not on the table.
Do you think that sort of nonsense, that sanctimonious nonsense, it should be the basis to disqualify him for a candidate for your vote?
You know what? I don't know where that judgment came from. I don't know if he was looking for pockets of votes, or if he just didn't want to do it, or if he just had something else he wanted to focus on. But for better or worse, he said it was off the table. And
can you imagine Barack Obama, Diana, saying, "Well, I don't think we ought to talk about the Keating 5 scandal, or a number of other things"?
Yes. Yeah, no, I can't. And I think that the sanctimoniousness is exactly what took these issues off the table. And the reason that they're emerging now is that they have not gone away on the internet, in talk radio, and the press, of course, has acted as a buffer, preventing them from surfacing. And now, 3 weeks out, all of a sudden, a lot of people are starting to get extremely worried when they notice that Barack Obama has spent his formative years and beyond in an incubator peopled by anti-American extremists, and William Ayers is the poster child. And the more we find out about him, I think people are concerned. I think they're concerned about the economy.
They're concerned about
this
eating.
Is the man.
I want to talk about that incubator. I want to know about that incubator.
They're concerned about eating, Lou. And
he wants to know about the incubator.
Hey, please, incubator, incubator. I don't think anybody's thinking about anything but what's going on in the economy, and the fact that just this past Friday, Lou, the president gets on the air and the market drops 500 points. So much for confidence.
No. You see, you exaggerated. It only dropped 300.
Oh, forgive me.
From the time that he started to the time that he finished, it was only 300.
Forgive me.
And every time Hank Paulson talks, we're saying the same thing. This is the administration that will not learn. It's time to shut up. They think, I have to assume they think they're doing well. Either that or they've got short positions. They couldn't have done that because that just returned to the market. I mean, it's mind-boggling what we're witnessing in the way of governance here. But let's go to this thing with Acorn. These charges against Acorn are coming up all over the country. This organization doing work, registration work for Barack Obama. And again, the McCain campaign has no concept of what they're talking about when it comes to this issue. Why in the world isn't the national media on this?
Well, I think there's a lot to answer for here. I mean, first of all, I think the national media doesn't understand a lot of this stuff. They haven't really sort of gone out into the field.
And they don't.
I think I mean, it's not that hard. I think you're right about that, to get caught up.
Right.
But they haven't bothered to get caught up. I mean, Acorn's been around for a quarter of a century at least, actively doing a lot of this stuff. Anybody could have figured this out, that there's this danger, that there's this probability, this possibility of either sloppiness or nefarious intent in putting
the indictments now and the federal and state investigations make it pretty clear. Some of it's
sure. No, look, it's a great story. I think a lot of people are going to have a hold of it. It doesn't discredit every organization, but I think there's a larger question out here, which is like, how come the campaign itself, or God forbid, the county organizations, the mighty Democratic Party, aren't out there doing the registration? Why are you getting these Hessians, these hired guns, to go out and do this?
Because they're getting up through their organizations, federal funding to do the work that would require the money of the candidate or the Democratic Party. This is an assault by left-wing activist organizations, and there's no doubt about it. And if people don't want to confront that, that's fine. But that's the reality, and why people are not discussing it, reporting on it, and trying to understand what has transpired here over the course of 25 years, to the point that nonprofits, not-for-profits, have become a shadow government in this country and are mighty powerful political engines at work very quietly in communities and cities all across the country. Do you agree?
I happen to agree with you. I think nonprofits have gotten out of control, and they've been funded by government. Here's a clear example of government funding things that maybe it ought not to be involved with, and they're being used for political purposes, no question about it.
And a clear example of Barack Obama's campaign funding an Acorn affiliate to the tune of $800,000. I mean, this is not just government.
No.
It's
It tells
perhaps
you.
government
that's
to
what
be.
we were talking about.
It tells you also the shape of the political parties in this country. That they are in terrible shape. That is not good for democracy, by the way.
No, and it's why I'm awfully proud to be an independent gentleman. And Diana. We're going to be back with our panel in just a moment. Also honoring our heroes, the president of the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund and the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum joins me next. We'll be right back. We're back with Hank Sheinkopf, Errol Louis, and Diana West. Diana, let me turn to you. Well, it looks like this is the end of capitalism as we knew it, and I guess if you're Barack Obama, somebody's going to knock on your door soon and say you're the president-elect. How happy do you think he'll be, and do you think that's the scenario that's most likely?
Well, I think he would be very happy with that. I think that's what he's all about. I think it definitely is the scenario most likely if we trust our polls at all. I don't necessarily think that the race is over or the deal is done. I think that the radicalism that we're seeing emerging almost as a third candidate here may overtake Barack Obama to the benefit of John McCain, really despite John McCain in many ways.
Well, just about anything positive that's going to happen here is going to have to be almost despite him.
Yes.
I mean, he has run one of the sorriest campaigns I've ever seen, Errol.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when they pulled out of Michigan, the McCain campaign, they telegraphed it, which they absolutely did not have to do. They could have just quietly folded their tents and gone elsewhere and at least put up the pretense that they're going to continue. I think one of the things that they're going to have a hard time with is keeping the morale boosted. I think that's why you've seen this wave of campaigning focusing on radicalism and past associations, because the base is getting a little discouraged at this point.
Our Ed Henry reporting from the campaign last week of John McCain and Sarah Palin. I mean, Governor Palin draws these immense crowds. She is, I mean, electric on the campaign trail, and they combine John McCain with her to get a crowd. But he also reported on the anger there. These people are just at those rallies saying, why in the world aren't you basically get off your rear end, John McCain, and get engaged in this campaign and save the sanctimonious claptrap and the use of the words, my friends, and get it done.
You'd never know he'd won a string of primaries, you know?
Yeah,
you almost wonder how this guy got to be the nominee. People seem to be so out of sync with him, but he beat a host of more conservative candidates fair and square.
Well,
have you ever seen, though, people in a rally say to the candidate, get off your duff? I mean,
I've never seen anything like this, but you know what? This is an unusual election. The turnout numbers may break any previous records. And here are some important facts.
Well, if Acorn has its way.
Recent polling shows a couple of things. Minnesota, North Carolina, and one other state that we don't expect may be out of business here for the Republicans in the U.S. Senate races. Tells you something's going on. That electoral map may be withdrawn, may be redrawn.
Withdrawn or redrawn?
Well, withdrawn as we know it and redrawn as we will know it.
All right. Well, we thank you very much, Diane. Thank you very much, Errol. Thank you. Thanks, Hank. Still up, one of this nation's honored warships, a floating museum returning to its berth in New York Harbor, a symbol of the nation's commitment to our wounded warriors. I'll be joined by the president of the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund here next. Stay with us.